What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video is Week 3 quarterbacks to target on DraftKings. So, starting off, Jalen Hurts 7,300 against New Orleans. Yes, this one is risky, the way New Orleans has been playing, but it's the highest total on the slate besides Arizona and Detroit. So, yeah, I definitely don't see a scenario where I think this is a bad play. I don't love it for cash, but for tournaments, I definitely think it's worth playing. Obviously, New Orleans is now, they destroyed Carolina, but then they went and destroyed Dallas too. But Jalen Hurts and Philly's offense has, for the most part, been efficient. Obviously, they didn't look the best against Atlanta. Against Green Bay, they look good. Probably without A.J. Brown, which is a worry for me. But watching the injury news of some of the Saints defensive players, and it could become a solid play. I don't think you need to get there in cash, but definitely for tournaments, I'm looking at that one. C.J. Stroud, worth mentioning, another tournament play, 7,100 against Minnesota. And I'm more looking at it from Minnesota's offense being really bad in this one. C.J. Stroud and the Houston passing offense, at least last week against the Bears, didn't look the greatest, but C.J. Stroud, over 230 yards both games, 2 touchdowns, one in the other. So he's not getting there in DraftKings points per se, but overall, I think the ownership's probably going to be lower on him, just because it is Minnesota and their defense has definitely been playing well. But with how bad that offense might look this week, yeah, I think Stroud's worth mentioning, but as far as cash, Kyler is probably the highest I'm looking at as far as pricing that I'm going to pay for quarterback in cash this week. We saw what he did last week against the Rams. Now we get to Detroit defense, to where Tampa looked really good against them. The Rams, were able to move the ball against them as well. I'm hoping Detroit's offense has a breakthrough and they start looking like a really good offense, at least in the pass game. But Kyler Murray, if he could do just, some of what he did last week with Marvin Harrison, this could be a nice back and forth game. I hope it is. I hope he gets some good football in that matchup. So Kyler Murray is definitely one I'm targeting. Anthony Richardson, 6,700, is just worth mentioning for the rushing upside against the Bears. He's just going to get fantasy points every week because of it, right? Week 1 gets you 11 fantasy points just on the ground alone. Week 2, 3.7. So, yeah, it's not the greatest against the Bears defense, but if the Bears are able to actually move the ball offensively, I think this could be a nice back and forth game. Anthony Richardson's rushing upside will definitely help him in this one. So he's worth in tournaments cash. I don't think he's in that player pool yet for me. The next one, Jared Goff, 6,500. I really like him against Arizona. I think this is a game where Jared Goff gets you 20, 25 plus points against Arizona. Hopefully the passing touchdowns are there. So far, only one passing touchdown for Jared Goff in 2 games. And that's against the Rams in 1 game. So, yeah, I'm going to need Jared Goff to kind of go off, right? Detroit's offense looked very strange last week against Tampa. There were times in drives they looked really, really good, and then times where stuff wasn't clicking, whether it was Jared Goff, whether it was the run, whether it was the blocking. It just looked kind of all over the place. I think Detroit, the way that Detroit's defense kind of stopped Baker for multiple drives in a row, Jared Goff and that offense should have got it in this one with the highest total. Probably the best pass block advantage of the week. Yeah, Jared Goff is in a really nice bounce back spot for me in cash, 6,500. Next, Baker Mayfield's definitely worth mentioning again, going against a Denver defense that is very, very, very bad. I will continue to say that. Very bad. And Baker has been very good so far this season, right? Week 1 was awesome for me. I had him as my quarterback in my double-up line, 29 DK points. Last week, 19.8, right? Still doesn't completely pay off for the 5,900, but I think it's damn near close. And that's with only 19 pass attempts against Detroit, right? Got sacked a lot. Definitely got sacked a lot, but, gets a touchdown. He got 9.4 out of his 19 on the ground against Denver. I think it's a good matchup for him there as well. And then Brock Purdy, 6K Brock Purdy. 6K Brock Purdy, right? So week 1 against the Jets, tough matchup. 10 points. Week 2 against Minnesota, still kind of a tough matchup. Throws for over 300 yards, though, in 18 points. Now he's back down to 6K, goes down 100 against the Rams, who's going to be without Puka Nacua, be without Cooper Kupp. Brock Purdy's going to be without CMC. He's probably going to be without Deebo Samuel. But I still think if you throw Ayuk out there, Juwan Jennings, you still have George Kittle. Like, there's enough weapons to where Brock Purdy and that offense look very, very good. So Brock Purdy's in my cash pool as well. And then Derek Carr on the other side of the Philly side, right? The team that's going to hopefully put up another 40-plus point performance if you're rooting for the Saints. I mean, you look at Philly's defense. Week 1 against Green Bay, Love was able to move the ball on that defense, especially on the ground. Both teams were. Jacobs had a really good game. Bijan had a good game. Even Tyler Algier, when he got in, had a good game. New Orleans, I mean, through 2 weeks, right? Week 1, 19 for 23 against Carolina with 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Week 2 against Dallas, this one surprised even me. Throws for more yards and less attempts and only 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, he's paid off. 21 and 22 points at that price point at 5,300 as a payoff. At 5,800, if he does a repeat performance, 20-plus points, he's paying off, right? And with how Philly's secondary has been, it could be 3 straight games where we see Derek Carr have a really good fantasy stat number. So Derek Carr is definitely worth mentioning in this one. I am going to mention Caleb Williams, 5,600 against Indy. DeForest Buckner's out. That's a huge blow for Indy. Latu has been banged up, so Indy kind of missing a starting corner too for the season. Juju Brents, I believe, is the one that is out. So Indy's taking some hits on that defense. I think this is a game where the Bears' offensive line can hold finally. Hopefully, as a Bears fan, hopefully they have some good plays. And yeah, it's worth mentioning Caleb Williams at his price point, 5,600. Starts the season at 59, drops to 58, drops even more to 56. So he's in my player pool. He's got to be. Deshaun Watson's another guy that's got to be in my player pool at 5,500 against the Giants. Now, Deshaun Watson hasn't really performed the greatest for where his price has been, 6K and 5,600. Not really paying off there. But against the Giants, who last week against Washington, Jaden Daniels was able to throw the ball more than he did against Tampa. Yeah, Minnesota kind of did their thing against him too. Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland offense have just looked all over the place. Another one to where there's been drives where Deshaun Watson looks really good again. And there's drives that, yeah, he looks like the Cleveland version of Deshaun Watson, which has been terrible since he's been traded to Cleveland. Not only has he been hurt, but when he does play, has not been good. This is a good bounce back spot for him at his price point, so he's definitely got to be worth mentioning in this one. Sam Darnold, 5,500. You're watching for the injury news for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Those could be 2 huge blows there. Gardner Minshew, 5,300 against Carolina has got to be worth mentioning in cash pools, right? 5,300. We've had that. Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield around that range, 5,600. You've had some guys kind of pay off at that price point. Now you get Gardner Minshew against the worst defense in the league. Yeah, I could see Vegas getting a lot of their fantasy points through the ground, but Gardner Minshew through 2 weeks, 33 pass attempts against the Chargers. Tough defense. In week 2 against Baltimore, 30 for 38. Like his completion percentage is amazing. Throwing for 250 yards plus. 1 touchdown, 1 pick in both games. Rushing upside is never really going to be Gardner Minshew, but 12 and 13 points. You're hoping for a 20-plus point performance for his price tag for him to really pay off there. Other than that, you could look at Andy Dalton because this is probably this is the cheapest we've had a starting quarterback so far this season. 4,800 against Vegas is worth mentioning. I don't know if I'm going to put him in my pool. With how bad Carolina's offense is, I don't know if I want to pull the trigger on that. So kind of the cheapest that we're looking at is Gardner Minshew at 5,300. Other than that, I'm not really looking at anybody else. I don't think anybody else stands out as far as cash. So to summarize cash, if you're paying up, Kyler Murray is kind of that highest point I'm willing to pay. Looking at the mid 6K, Jared Goff or Baker Mayfield at 65, 63. Looking at the 6K range, you have Brock Purdy, you have Derek Carr at 5,800. Those two guys are cash playable. And then down here, you got Deshaun Watson at 55, Gardner Minshew at 53. I kind of think that's where the quarterback cash pool should be. People might want to play Sam Darnold for what he's done. I'm not going to get there. Geno against Miami could be something that pops up. I just kind of like Miami's defense a little bit. But yeah, that's where I'm at as of today on Wednesday now. It is Wednesday. That is my quarterback play pool. So if you guys are interested in getting my spreadsheet, I usually have that completed by Friday or Saturday for our subscribers. If you guys are interested in that, click the link to our Discord. I'll have running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then the showdown video going out this week. And then on Sunday, I will have a roster construction live stream. So if you guys are interested in that, kind of ask questions, not just DFS, but fantasy related as well, tune into that one. And I will see you guys in the next one.